Welcome to a Pillow Away podcast hosted by Dave and Cindy Carver, a couple who have been married to each other for over 23 years. In each episode, they share their insights and stories about the importance of the person closest to you in life, your partner. Through their honest and candid conversations, Dave and Cindy explore the challenges and joys of marriage and relationships, and will offer practical advice for how to cultivate a strong and lasting connection with the ones you love. Whether you are in a relationship or looking for one, a Pillow Away podcast is a must-listen for anyone seeking to deepen their connections and build a fulfilling life with those closest to them. So, hello, did you guys miss us?
I hope so.
We've been gone for, 2 weeks now? We missed last week?
I think it has been 2 weeks.
So we had a 2-week gap, and that's kind of our fault. It's actually not my fault at all. It's
Completely
my
my
co-host's fault. As most of you know, because we've talked about it, Cindy thought she was suffering from some sort of early allergy season congestion / can't handle being outdoors breathing fresh air after a long cold winter. Turns out that's not the case.
Not at all.
So you want to tell them?
So I have difficulty breathing, and I sound terrible. I can hear myself, gravelly voice and everything. I really think that is allergies at this point. But like he said, I thought it was allergies. I thought it was a medicine that I was taking, so I quit taking that medicine, and I'm not any better. So 2 emergency room visits, an echocardiogram.
I want you to know that both emergency room visits, actually one of the 2 emergency room visits, she drove herself. The second one, I drove her, although I think she probably could have driven herself then too.
Right. I'm not so out of it that I can't drive or work, or I just can't walk anywhere without being out of breath. And so
Those of you that know us closely understand why I said that, because I know there are people out there saying, I can't believe you didn't take her to the hospital, including my boss, who said, there's nothing we do that's so important here that you can't go to the hospital with your wife.
So I drove out of our town and went to a hospital that big hospital. I feel like better options as far as treatment and doctors. So and I had recently taken my dad there, so I felt pretty confident going there. ER doctor was great guy. He's funny, sense of humor. ERs are just to keep you alive. They don't actually usually diagnose what's wrong with you when you walk in with something like this. So basically I was given Lasix, and then they tell you to make an appointment with a cardiologist, which he thought I would
She
be
always
able
leaves out the details. Why do you keep doing that? Is it so traumatic that you can't say what the problem is?
So,
Because somebody on the other end's got to be saying, well, okay, what'd they give you Lasix for?
because I have pulmonary edema.
Which, for those of you that don't know what that means, is she has fluid buildup on her lungs, which is not normal.
So, and I've never ever had that before. So the Lasix they gave me in the emergency room.
Honey, none of us have ever had pulmonary edema before.
No, I meant
it
Lasix.
usually kills you.
No. I'd never had Lasix
okay.
before. So Lasix at the hospital, I lost 6 pounds overnight, and then I lost 2 more pounds the next day. Have been on Lasix. I was on Lasix for about 7 or 8 more days. It wreaks havoc with my diabetes. If you don't know, Lasix interferes with insulin in your body, of course. So you try to fix one thing and you make another worse. So
basically, didn't it eliminate the insulin's ability to reduce or keep your blood sugar in line?
It does. It makes insulin basically not work hardly at all. I mean, it was terrible.
I'm picking on her today because at times I think she forgets that this is somewhat of an educational podcast. So, we've got to treat the listeners as if they don't know anything, or maybe they're listening because they want to know what to look forward to if they come up with something like this. So
if you come down to you can't walk to the mailbox without being out of breath, or like I just took the sheets off the bed and walked them to the washing machine, and it's not a long walk.
About 12 feet.
And the sheets aren't heavy, and I was out of breath. So, echocardiogram doesn't show anything glaring.
Wait a
CAT
minute.
scan.
Let's back up just a hair again, because for some odd reason, it was very traumatic at the time. We had people praying for us. It was all over Facebook. The whole world knew that you were in the hospital, and you've immediately skipped forward from, I don't know what they diagnosed me with, but they gave me Lasix, and I left the hospital, and I have an echocardiogram.
Well, that's what happened.
That's not what happened. What happened was that they couldn't determine what the problem was, other than they knew you had fluid buildup on your lungs, and Lasix is a diuretic, more or less, and it's designed to remove fluid from your body. So they prescribed you for that. But in the process of determining all of that, they discovered what they thought could be potentially a heart issue.
Well, they're always going to point that direction.
Yes, but didn't you tell me that that one of the test results could be indicative of a heart issue, which is why you needed to see a cardiologist?
Yeah, and one of the things did
Well,
show.
you don't just go from a pulmonologist to an echocardiogram.
No,
it doesn't typically.
Not a pulmonologist.
Okay, you don't go from an ER to an echocardiogram without a few stops
at my
in between.
age and my complaint, they're always going to send me to a cardiologist.
I'm telling you right now, are you suffering from trauma, PTSD from this whole thing? Why do you keep skipping over the stuff that people need to know? All right, so she leaves the hospital, drives herself home that evening. Then what happened?
I can't get in to see a cardiologist for 2 weeks. That's not going to fly with me.
Now, this all happened on a Thursday.
I don't understand.
You found out on Friday morning that you can't get into a cardiologist for at least 2 weeks. So there's going to be a 2-week gap between the time that you find that you have fluid on your lungs, you're put on Lasix, you're peeing incessantly, trying to get fluid out of your body, and you figure out you can't get into a cardiologist on Friday.
No way.
So the wait for cardiology appointment was 2 weeks.
Yes. So I did make an appointment with my primary care physician, because the cardiologist that I was able to get an appointment with mentioned the fact that they would do an echocardiogram, and if my primary care doctor would order that, then that would be helpful for the cardiologist to already have it.
So we go about...
Best of plans.
We go about our normal business, sort of, day-to-day living kind of stuff. I was at work Friday. I don't think you went back. Did you go back to work?
Yeah.
The next day?
Yeah.
Okay, so she went back to work the very next day after a hospital stay and finding out that she had fluid on her lungs.
I was just in the ER. I didn't stay overnight.
Yeah, so she goes back to work as well. Figures it out, that she can't get into a cardiologist for 2 more weeks. Saturday comes, and what happens Saturday?
I felt really terrible. I just felt awful. So I thought that maybe going to an actual heart hospital would actually be a good thing if you're possibly having some sort of cardiac event, which is where they're pointing to.
All right,
let me
back up, because I feel terrible and I feel awful is not enough detail for those of us that are analytically brained to understand why you have to go to the hospital on Saturday.
I can't breathe. I feel terrible. I mean, I feel bad. I just don't feel right.
She had general malaise. She could not breathe.
Oh my gosh, she pulled out malaise.
She kept telling me that her heart was racing and she couldn't get it under control.
Correct.
In addition to that, the Lasix was messing with her blood sugar, which had it all jacked up. And she had severe pain in both legs, which is not normal. Knee pain, normal. Severe pain in both legs that it makes you cry just driving down the street in a car is not normal. It makes you cry laying in bed is not normal.
It hurts right now.
Like it hurts right now, exactly. So we go through most of the afternoon with those symptoms before Cindy finally tells me that she needs to go to the hospital and wants me to take her to a cardiac care hospital, which is well known in Indianapolis' northeast side of town. Which is where I drove her to two Saturdays ago. 2 weekends ago on a Saturday evening. That was date night for us, Community Hospital North, while Cindy's having her heart checked. Okay, you may now add your detail.
They basically asked me why I was there, and said that there's no cardiologist here on Saturday evenings. So they ran a couple tests. They did a chest x-ray again, and then they actually did an ultrasound on my leg because of the pain that I was complaining of, which I'm sure they were checking for a blood clot. There's no blood clot, but I do have a cyst behind my knee. That's new.
Yeah, that was bizarre. We went there with what we thought was a potential heart problem, and I was worried, and I didn't know what kind of insurance we had, and I wasn't sure what kind of a eulogy I was going to have to give her if it was a heart problem. And you're thinking about all those things when you're sitting out in the lobby of a cardiac care hospital, worrying about somebody that may or may not be with you at the end of the day. And they find a cyst behind her knee, which absolutely has nothing to do with any of the symptoms.
No.
Sort of, it could be the reason for some of the pain in her
I
leg.
don't think so.
But as it turns out, and you guys are pretty smart listeners, you probably drew a logical conclusion to this. Part of the pain in your leg, and this is the educational part, is when you're on Lasix and it's drawing fluids out of your body, it's not only drawing the excess water out, it's drawing out all the things that are in the excess water, like nutrients and electrolytes and all those other things, which can cause muscle cramps, muscle pains, aches and pains, and or general malaise. Is that an accurate description?
Yes.
All right, so we did that on Saturday, 2 weeks ago, and then we went back to our normal lives during Holy Week, more or less. We did manage to make it through, Wednesday before you saw your primary care physician of Holy Week, which would have been a week ago.
All the days run together. So I don't remember. I honestly don't. So I saw my primary care physician. She orders the echocardiogram.
Yeah, and I can tell you when that happened. It happened on Good Friday. I was off. I went there with you. We spent the day there. We went to Chicken Salad Chicks and got chicken salad sandwiches.
Right, but she didn't order that. I had to take matters into my own hands.
Correct.
I went to a cardiologist, a same day appointment that you can get here, and saw a cardiologist on Thursday. He ordered the echocardiogram in the same office, and we drove back up there and had that done on Friday.
Isn't it amazing how this story comes together when you actually provide detail?
And then, so they look at the echocardiogram. They never call me with the results. I have to call them.
Tell them what a stalker you are.
Oh, so you can see your chart online. If anybody knows anything about my chart, 2 of the hospitals have my chart. So, like the first ER, I was looking at the test results before a
doctor even came in to speak to her. She's already pulled up test results and is texting test results to me while I'm sitting at work.
I'm laying in the bed with nothing to do.
And we both did the curiosity thing. We both Googled the terms, the medical terms that we didn't know what they were, and we figured out what they were going to tell her before they told her.
Pretty much. So, get to see the cardiologist same day, echocardiogram the next day, and then never get the results called to me. I have to call them, and it just kills me because I'm worried because I don't know what's wrong. I don't feel well. I still don't feel well. He ends up ordering a stress test with the nuclear testing, so they shoot the stuff into your arm.
It's a contrast dye.
Yeah, it's contrast. So they put the dye in, and then they take pictures of your heart, and then you do the treadmill test, and they take pictures again, but they put the dye in again before you're about to pass out from the treadmill test.
Do you remember what I told you that you had to have in your hand when you were on the treadmill?
No.
Your cell phone, so that you could text me if you collapsed and fell off. No. I wanted you to make sure that I was the last person you talked to.
Oh, okay.
Not somebody in the hospital that didn't
Pretty
care
sure
about
Austin would have been the last person I talked to.
I know, but that's why I wanted you to have the cell phone in your hand. I needed you to text me the death benefit policy number as you were laying there in the hospital.
Poor Austin, the guy who administered the test. And so, of course, I'm curious, because they have you hooked up to an EKG. They have your O2 sats going. I mean, they're watching everything as you're raising your heart rate. There's a target heart rate I'm supposed to meet. And then once I meet that, or I'm almost there, they want to shoot that dye back in and put it into your heart, And then, you know, you have to at least do 5 minutes or meet the target heart rate. So I was 3 minutes and 30 seconds, met the target heart rate. I'm about to pass
You
out.
never told me that. You've only lasted 3 minutes and 30 seconds to get to your target heart rate?
Let me tell you, it wasn't just a flat treadmill. It was a treadmill that was at an incline.
So if you'd have been on there for like 5.5 minutes, you'd have blown your heart out, right? It would have just gone.
I could not have done 5 minutes. I'm actually shocked. I can't.
I'm amazed that you were able to walk
because I can't walk through a parking lot.
She's bone on her knees anyway, so that's another issue.
It was just I mean, they knew how hard it was for me to breathe.
And literally, go back to what she said about the bedroom. 12 feet from the bedroom to the laundry room, and it sounds like she's having a major asthmatic attack.
Right.
And she can't breathe.
So here we are today. So I can see the stress test results.
Yeah, we have not spoken to a cardiologist
because once
yet.
again, I had a test on a Friday.
Good Friday.
No, this one was last Friday.
Last Friday was Good Friday.
No, it wasn't. I just had that
Friday.
Test on Friday.
Yeah, see, the days are all
I know.
together.
Trust me, I know.
The days are all running
So I just had that done on Friday. I was off work all day. And so, like I said, I can see the test results. I can't find any of my friends who can read a stress test tell me.
You don't know anybody medically qualified to read it?
Well, I know I can't find anybody. I probably have someone, but I don't know whether that's kind of a lot to put on somebody.
To diagnose what's wrong with you?
Honestly, I don't think it's bad because
Isn't that why we are where we are? Is because that mentality seems to be pervasive across the medical system currently.
Of what?
That it's kind of hard to put that kind of stress on somebody else to try to figure out what's wrong with you.
Well, no, I mean a friend. Hey, we look at this stress test and tell me what
I'm being sarcastic because, folks, what you don't know is that I went through cancer. I went through the COVID thing. It almost killed me. And I learned through cancer treatment many, 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 many years ago that when you're in the system, you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You do. You have to do the things like she did. You've got to cheat. You got to read your charts online. You got to try to figure out what's going on. And you got to remember to say important things like a cardiologist doesn't know you had pulmonary edema unless you tell the cardiologist that. Now, I will tell you this, folks. I learned that same lesson through cancer because there are so many specialists in the medical career field that if you don't tell them the problems that you have, just because they're technically under the hood, they're not going to find it. There's specific tests that they have for just about everything that you tell them. So if you have symptoms and you're talking to your doctor or you go to an emergency room and they start asking you, the whole 50 questions quiz that they give you, there's a reason for that because that tells them what kind of specialist or what things that they might be looking for as a way to solve your problem. The secondary thing I will tell you, and she did mention this a few minutes ago as well, emergency rooms, and I know this is really basic general education, but there's a lot of folks out here that don't understand it because you watch stuff on TV and you think that emergency rooms do all these things. Emergency rooms are for basically acute traumatic stuff. They solve that problem before they start looking for the other problems.
Right. They just make sure you're stable. Like with me, I could see in the chart that he actually talked to another physician and that he asked the opinion of that doctor whether I should stay for observation, and they came to the consensus no, and that's why I went home from the initial ER visit to start with. So
the other thing that I think is interesting, and this is just a Dave assessment, and maybe you'll back me up, maybe you won't. I don't know because I don't think you and I have had this conversation about this yet. And I'm not picking on a career field. I'm not picking on several different career fields that we were involved with medical people in general. But I think COVID-19 took its toll on the medical industry as a whole. And it took its toll because a lot of people saw a lot of trauma and dealt with a lot of mess and they're burned out. It could be, and I think we all know this because we read news stories on it, that it took its toll and people left the profession.
And I think
and they're
I
shorthanded.
I almost bet that the first ER I was in, they did a fine job. They were good. I mean, I liked that hospital group of hospitals, but they were definitely short because I was supposed to have the Lasix like an hour before, and he walked in and he's like, "So you've had the Lasix?" And I was like, "No, I haven't had the Lasix." And then a nurse came in behind him, and she had the Lasix. There weren't a lot of nurses. I mean, obviously, I can see, the people that are walking through the hallway. So I think they were kind of short staffed in that ER. And I could tell there were definitely people there who were sick, sicker than I was. I mean, I'm just laying in the bed.
Right, but you don't know that, and they don't know that until they start evaluating people. And I think there's a level of care
I don't really understand
that
this.
drops.
This I do not
That did drop.
understand. And I never have, and maybe I have never understood you could be in an ER for an hour or so or more, and the door's shut and no one checks on you.
Yeah, that's always weird.
I just think that's weird.
It is a little strange, and you're somewhat in anxiety filled,
Right.
somewhat panic mode because you don't know what's wrong with you. You just know that what's
So
wrong with you isn't normal.
So, of course, if you ask me to sign up for my chart, I'm going to look at my chart and go, well, look, this is what they ran. Google it.
Well,
This is it. Google it.
I would go back to what I recommended just a moment ago. I'm advising anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you have a healthcare issue or you're involved with a loved one that has a healthcare issue, you have to be an advocate. And unfortunately for me, well, actually, unfortunately for you, because you did it as well. We both have been through some pretty traumatic stuff with our parents, so I pay attention, I listen, and I shoot detail as much as I can towards doctors and nurses that ask for the questions, because I think most patients are the same way. Most people have gotten to know you. I know you. People that don't know who you are and how you work is Cindy's pretty tough. She was an athlete when she was younger, and she was pretty athletic into mid-20s, late 20s.
Which is amazing because my knees, they suck, because I played a catcher for many years in softball, pounded the gym floor in basketball and volleyball for a good 6 years. So, those things, but what seems to have prevailed, even with my parents' cardiac history, which both of them have terrible cardiac histories. And that's the other thing when they see that in my chart, they're like, oh, wow, oh, okay. Is that everything is pointing towards my heart being fine, which we're happy about.
We're happy about that. I am.
But
I'm
there's
thrilled
no
about
answer.
that because heart issues are probably, in my mind, they're probably the most critical issue you've got. You can't live without your heart. You can't live without your lungs. You can't live without your heart. So a heart issue, it actually, worried me. I don't know that it scared me. It worried me. Worried me to the point that I finally had to tell her I was tired of praying for her and that she needed to get better because, God needs to hear about other stuff besides Cindy all the time. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. There's a lot of people that have been praying for Cindy, but we've taken the heart issue off the table because she read her own charts and it doesn't look like there's going to be a heart problem.
I mean, you can see in the findings that it says, I think it even said mild or low risk for a cardiac event or something like that, which is actually shocking because I can't have more of the things that cause heart issues.
The high risk factors, you have
Than I have.
you have high blood pressure, you
I'm
have
diabetic.
diabetes, you're
Am I-
overweight, you're out of shape.
All right, well, let's quit listing those.
I didn't say
I
the
was
negative
just
word.
gonna
I
say
said
my-
overweight, out of shape.
My family history. I think we could pretty much all assume.
And you have a family. No, they can't all assume it. There are people that are listening to you in Malaysia. They don't have any idea how big a person you
I'm
are.
not skinny.
Okay, overweight but there are other terms I could have used that.
Yeah, I don't like reading those either.
That are technically medically correct.
I don't like those in my charts.
Me either. I'm listed as an obese person. I don't feel
likes to
obese.
See that in their chart.
I don't know anybody that actually calls me obese to my face, but I don't know. Maybe people think I am obese. I know by AMA standards, I'm a walking heart attack waiting to happen.
I know, and I feel like, people would look at me and they'd be like, well, no wonder you're having cardiac problems. Look at your weight. And that's a whole nother can of worms.
And I don't want it to cause problems for you, but I heard that in conversations that I had, which is why I tried to eliminate conversations.
What?
Because it was brought up to me. It's the same thing like COVID. When we had COVID, and the first thing people said was, well, did you get the vaccine? It's none of your damn business whether I had the vaccine or not. The vaccine didn't or did not cause COVID. One or the other.
What's going to be very interesting is
being overweight did not cause you to have pulmonary edema. It had nothing to do with it.
No. I mean, because at this point, like I said,
it might be a complicating factor in the fact that you have pulmonary edema, but it didn't cause it.
No. I am probably 95% sure that he's going to come back, and because the second test, the test they did on Friday, he had already planned on another test after the first one, unless the first one had just off the chart problems.
So you're pretty sure, 90% positive, they're going to come back and say what?
I think he's going to say that I haven't had a heart attack. There is no damage to my heart, and my heart is strong, which goes against what anybody said about being overweight and having a cardiac problem. I totally agree,
and it enforces the point I was making a few minutes ago, is that you are incredibly strong.
I mean, I can still ride. I take it. I do that. I mean, I've ridden a Peloton bike at a weight that you're not even supposed to be on the bike. So I'm not kidding.
And you got on me because I said overweight.
I can say this.
And you're telling a national audience that you've been on a Peloton bike that's not rated for the weight that you're carrying.
I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. And I'm not the only one. I read on, Facebook boards and groups and all that kind of stuff where people would ask that question. They would be like, well, I weigh blah, 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 and the bike is only rated for this weight or whatever. So, and I told you this too, that
let me give you something here, a caveat to those of you that are thinking along the same lines. If you are overweight, and I am, and I'll admit this, there's a reason why there's a weight rating on that bicycle.
Right.
And it's because the bike is very top heavy. And you're in a really narrow seated bike. So if you go to stand up, and I did it, she knows, she's done it herself. If you go to,
I didn't tip the bike over.
No, I did. But if you go to stand up like they want you to in certain parts of a Peloton, guided exercise, and you happen to get that thing off of balance, your weight with the top heaviness of it will topple the bike right over. That's why they don't want you on the bike.
His one and only half ride.
Yeah, well, I don't. Me and bike rides don't get along. I don't like a sore butt. I just don't.
I religiously rode my Peloton for the first.
I mean, I got the padded
3 years.
I got the padded boxer short thingies that you had to wear, and it still didn't help. My butt still hurt.
You did get
Plus, riding a bike's boring. It really is. To me, it's the same thing as the treadmill. They put you on a treadmill. You go to a treadmill in the gym and you stare at like CNN, or you stare at a wall and you walk and you walk and you walk. I'm like, that sucks. If I'm going to walk all that way, I want to see like trees and birds and ducks and ponds.
Well, that's why they came out with the tread.
I know, but that's why bikes I don't get along well with. And the last traumatic thing to happen to me happened because of a bike ride.
What's that?
Testicular cancer. That's how I found out I had it. It was not pleasant. I didn't enjoy it. And
so you have some PTSD.
Yeah, I got PTSD about riding
on a bike seat.
About riding a bike because it cost me a testicle before.
Alrighty.
And you only have two, and I can't afford to lose the third one. So it just it doesn't work. So yeah, there's a reason for that. But the reason is because the bike's top heavy. It has nothing to do with my fear.
So I have been saying for months that I need to get back on the bike. I need ride. I need to, I need to get back into things. And part of the reason I have it is because I just have not felt like I had energy. And I thought it was a medication. It's not the medication, it's something else. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of things that could be wrong related to pulmonary things, related to like the blood pressure in your lungs and things like that.
Right.
Because of course I can't stop. Well, first of all, Facebook has, like I told him, has started throwing out pulmonary diagnoses.
Yeah, she said
Because
pulmonary
I've Googled
edema
so
too many
much.
times and Googled too many times, so now Facebook's
So
giving her
Facebook's
suggestions.
like throwing out diagnosis of my problems. And so I read about this. I'm like, well, yeah, I could have that. That might be it. I think that might be it. That might be it.
Are these drug companies that are doing
No,
this on
no.
Facebook? Or are these just
These
like
are-
Facebook support groups
They're
trying to
like
get you to join their pages?
They're like support groups, or it's not even drugs or anything like that. But and I'm dead serious. That is exactly happening. There's a lot of pulmonary like problems. Like you can have high blood pressure in your lungs.
How come you're not being invited to like tardive dyskinesia groups?
What does that mean?
Well, because of your chronic drops.
Where did you get that?
Isn't that what tardive dyskinesia is?
I wouldn't say what if I knew what it was.
Doesn't it cause you to have like
He
uncontrollable
watches
drops?
way too many commercials.
I don't watch.
He has listened to way too many drug
Yeah,
commercials.
but that's all they put on television. And
I
I'm closing
know.
in on 60.
I
I'm a
know.
target audience
I
for
know.
drug commercials on TV. But
know.
I am proud to announce to this audience, I don't take a single prescription. Not one.
He's done well.
And I'm almost 60 years old.
Almost.
And my heart's still strong according to the last set of tests I took, which was COVID-19
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
I went through all that crap.
Which that's another thing you put on the table. Is there something in the shot? Did COVID itself cause me a problem that comes down the road? Or
When you said
know,
you put on the table, you talking about me?
no, I
Oh, in general.
In general.
Yeah, because I'm sure that there's listeners in this group that are probably going to think, well, I wonder if she got the vaccine. Yes, she is vaccinated.
I did get the vaccine, and like I said a couple episodes ago, it was because I had one particular call as an 911 dispatcher that just freaked me the crap out.
But she also had respiratory issues right
Right.
after she got
Yeah.
vaccinated, which, they went on for months.
Mm.
And it wasn't during a peak allergy season because she got vaccinated in the fall. So,
No, but it's that there's some fall virus that goes around.
okay, so you're writing it off as that.
No. I'm just saying that I think that I think it exacerbated that for sure.
All right, well, so for those of you that are conspiracy theorists out there that are listening, I have a completely different take on that. I think somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see incredibly high statistics on pulmonary, cardio, death-related issues that all came back to vaccines and COVID.
Well, that makes me feel good.
And when I say we, I mean you guys, because I'm still a pureblood.
I got scared into taking it, so
I'm still a pureblood.
I've
I
had
didn't take it.
I've had two, but no boosters. So.
And that should tell you all something out there in the world that's different about the both of us, is because we kind of both go our own ways most of the time. She's vaccinated and I'm not. I'm chocolate, she's vanilla. Just that's the way it works.
How is that even a comparison?
You're the white keys, I'm the black keys. That's how it works.
That's weird.
Yeah, but that's what makes this whole thing work really well for us. And the other thing is that, this is a relationship podcast as well. And I think you're going to find in your relationship that if one or the other, goes through something that could be considered traumatic, in my mind, this isn't traumatic as much as it is chronic. Because she's had this issue for a while now. And we thought it was related to early allergies here because, most of the eastern
Right.
half of the country got, spring early this year.
Right.
So it's not something that's just happened over the last 14 days. This has been a while.
And I have felt fatigued since last year.
Right.
But like I said, I thought it was medicine, and the shortness of breath basically came to the point where I'm like, I have to I have to go to the ER. Somebody has to help me with this.
Right.
And 3 weeks later, here I am.
Well, it's kind of funny because of the strength part, and I think it comes down to our career fields. I think it comes back down to the type of people that we developed into from childhood into our adulthood based on our career fields and our career choices. Is, you become somewhat immune to pain, discomfort, horrible situations because we've seen and heard so much of it.
Yeah.
I think it hurts people like us more than others. Well, maybe that's not a good statement. Maybe not more than others. It affects us differently in the fact that I know I do, and I saw it in you in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I have a tendency not to talk about pain. I have a tendency not to talk about problems that I'm having. You don't necessarily discuss them unless I bring them up.
Just suck it up.
I can hear it. Yeah, you just suck it up and keep moving forward. And I think it's part
Till
of that.
I get to, I'm a girl.
Right.
Till I get to the point where I'm crying and then I'm like, well, something's wrong with me.
Right. And I think you kind of end up with a chronic mindset because, I tell people all the time, my back's a train wreck. It
Right.
always is. My back's always in pain. I just don't complain about it every day
Right.
unless you notice it. I do the same silly stuff day in and day out. If I don't ice my back first thing in the morning, it's a nightmare to actually do anything for the next several hours. But I don't go to work complaining about it.
Right.
I don't gripe. I just go.
Right.
And it's been like that for many, many, many years. And you're the same way. You just keep going forward. And part of that, I think, is because of the people that we've turned into. We just, what your mission is in life, and you just keep moving forward.
This is different, though. This isn't just, allergy. What I felt in the past was allergies because we've been down this road. I'm allergic to every tree and grass, literally, in Indiana, as well as mold and some other. There's like 75 or 80 things they tested me for, and I'm allergic to all of them.
You can be allergic to 80 things?
It's crazy.
That's nuts.
But literally every grass, tree, everything.
I've told people for years I think I'm allergic to you. I think you're the reason that I get sick. You make me sick. You make me sick.
It's not me.
You make me ill?
Nope. So I had been going to see an allergist. We did the testing last year. I haven't gotten to the point of shots. So depending on what happens, talking to the cardiologist as to how the direction that he pushes me, because I don't know whether he's going to send me to a pulmonologist or if there's some other avenues that he wants to go down that check different things other than having damage to your heart. The whole pulmonary, what is it? PAH. That's what keeps showing up on my Facebook. It's high blood pressure in your lungs, which then forces.
Don't you have high blood pressure everywhere?
I don't really know how they know that it's in your lungs.
It's higher normal in your lungs than it is anywhere else in your body?
Right. So you have higher blood pressure in your lungs, which causes problems with the right side of your heart because that's where it pumps to. So it causes all kinds of problems.
You should be working at Lenox Hill. Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City could use somebody like you, if nothing else, as an advisor. Mm-hmm. As an advisor.
Tell them why you said Lenox Hill.
The reason I said that is we occasionally will rate programs that we watch. And it's funny because I read it. I pulled it up here so that I could tell the audience, because sometimes we watch shows and I don't even know the title. She's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm watching some emergency thing about New York City." There's a series out. It was just released on Netflix this week.
So it was this week?
Yeah.
It was that new?
It's brand new.
Oh, wow.
It's called Emergency New York City. It's from the creators of a previous series called Lenox Hill, which was the hospital that we followed. I didn't know that. I had heard.
Was that a Netflix show too?
Yeah, Lenox Hill is. It says.
Oh, we'll have to go back and look at that.
It was a highly watched program called Lenox Hill, and those same three doctors, that Langer, the one with the neck issue, his partner and that other lady, the emergency room doctor, were all featured in the original
We'll have
Lenox
to go
Hill
back
series.
and maybe
So
I'll have
now
to
I
go
have
back.
to watch Lenox Hill to see
Yeah,
if
no
it's any
kidding.
good or not. But Emergency NYC on Netflix, if you're looking for something to binge watch, and when I say binge, we had to watch all 8 episodes today. 'Cause
Today.
Today's Sunday and it's cold, it rained.
Yeah, it's
and
crappy.
It's kind of crappy here.
And I can't breathe.
You know, we just had a week of 80s and Cindy can't breathe and we don't know why. So we basically didn't change out of jammies and we sat inside and watched it. Well, I stumbled across it because it starts following, and it's regular throughout all episodes. It followed the air ambulance crew first, which is why, got me involved in it because, helicopters turned me on. It was very cool. And we've done some really cool stuff here locally with, PHI and IU Medical. Who else?
Lifeline.
Stat Flight.
We're in the.
I wasn't doing a very good service of saying that. So.
We are in the. What's the not flight line? The route that the medical helicopters fly directly over us when they're going to their home base southeast of us. So we see medical helicopters at least once a day.
The other advantage we have is we also have the regional airport. Indianapolis Regional is in Hancock County where we're at. So a lot of the helicopter flights come in there for refueling.
And that's going to become even more prevalent.
The reason I said, that it kind of turns me on is because we both have experience with helicopters. I had mine in the military and in law enforcement. And then, we did some really cool stuff when they landed. Was it Lifeline was landed in the parking lot of dispatch?
Yes.
PHI, did they land out there too?
It wasn't Lifeline. No. Well, no, Lifeline did come out there.
Lifeline was the second one. Yeah, it was IU Health. It was the red and white chopper.
We had PHI.
Yeah, that's the first one that I did I did the video on when it landed in the parking lot. That was very cool.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in law enforcement at the time and I didn't work for dispatch, but they do training flights where they brought the helicopter into dispatch, cleared out the parking lot and actually landed it in the parking lot at dispatch. And then they showed us how a hot load works. And, they let you approach the helicopter while it was in motion. I mean, the rotors were spinning and all of that stuff. And, that was very cool. We did that several years ago, and then, we did it again when Lifeline came in and did their thing.
And literally last weekend, I think it was Stat Flight came out and did a training class
they
with
did
our
it at Eastern
fire
Hancock
departments.
Eastern Hancock High School. They landed out there
So
on the
they do that
football
with
field,
fire departments too. So
yeah, so if you ever get a chance to get involved in something like that, that's a pretty cool thing too. But again, this story on Netflix follows some pretty cool cases. I hope you've got a stomach for it. I would not recommend that you're eating anything like pizza or spaghetti at the time because you actually get to see surgical procedures that we were both like, whoa.
I actually did better than normal, except for a few things. It's very graphic.
At times.
Right, yeah. It's not all blood and guts by any means at all.
No.
But they're showing you actual procedures.
we saw 2 cesarean sections where they went in and plucked the alien out. But both babies were cool.
It was nice.
I'm not a big baby fan, but both those babies were good-looking kids, and it was kind of neat to see that happen. But I
had no idea that's how a cesarean section goes. So
we both think that at this point, after watching 8 episodes, which is the first year series, that we could both probably perform kidney transplant because we actually got to see 3 or 4 of those. That's kind of neat.
And a liver.
Liver transplant. I'm not so comfortable with that. I'm going to need to see another episode or 2. But microneurosurgery. I think I could do that.
No.
Look, my hands don't shake. No. I don't have the shakes. I don't have the wheeze like you.
They did several procedures on brain surgeries, literally. And that's fascinating. That's amazing.
It is cool. And the other thing I thought was pretty cool about it is that you got kind of a behind the scenes look at some of the top of the line people like that. David Longer was the chief neurosurgeon for Lenox Hill. I mean, that's one of the top hospitals in New York City.
He says the F word just like us. Just so you know.
That's where I was going to go with it.
He
You
does.
get to see some really cool behind the scenes stuff because you always look at these guys. And I've always had a reverence for people that have gotten that high because anybody that has, any serious studies in their life realize that, you can get a 4-year degree, you can get 8-year master's, 12 years doctorate or more to get your doctorate's degree. But you don't realize, and we talked about this in a previous episode, I don't think most people realize that when you start specializing in something, whether that's EMT specialist, whether it's dispatch specialist, whether it's, a fireman with 85 certifications or a law enforcement officer with all those certifications, that is tremendous amount of training more than most normal
He had
doctors
10
do.
years of training just on ped surgery.
Yeah, one of the doctors.
That was they were rated number one, or, he's, that surgeon and that hospital are well known for their pediatric surgery. And like he said, there's not a lot of pediatric surgeons out there.
It was kind of cool because since we're going down that road, there was one procedure where he was operating around an optic nerve to get a tumor out from behind the eye without damaging the optic nerve. And I believe one of the guys that was in the room said that he was one of only a handful of doctors in the entire world that could perform a surgery like that without any damage to the nerve.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things are very fascinating to me. And if they're fascinating to you, I highly recommend that you watch that series. And again, now that I've Googled it, we're going to have to go and try to find Lenox Hill afterwards and see if Lenox Hill is any good or not. But we've come to an end of another episode. We're at our 45-minute mark. We don't want anybody to fall asleep while they're driving home from work listening to us ramble on about cities, healthcare, and or the medical field. But you can see, our lack of. We're right now we're in a holding pattern for Cindy. We're just going to have to live with, because apparently that's our cross to bear at this point in life. We're just going to have to live with what's wrong with her until somebody can come along and figure out what's wrong with her.
Hopefully this week is the week.
I will tell you it's sad. I told her it's sad. I've prayed to take her place. I don't care at this point. I'd just as soon be sick and let you be healthy. So, but, that doesn't seem to be God's will for us at this point. But, as much as I rib her and tease her, I don't ever want to see her in pain. I don't want to see her struggle. I don't want to see her have to go through the fight that she's been going through without knowing why we're going through it.
Right.
Somebody would come along and say, you've got a heart problem, or somebody would come along and say, diagnose you with cancer or something. At least we'd know what we're fighting.
It's really hard to.
It's very difficult to be at this point where you go to bed every night and you watch that person that's a pillow away from you struggle to breathe, even wearing a CPAP machine where it's forcing air into you. Struggle to breathe, can't hold still, doesn't sleep more than 2.5 to 3 hours at a time. And, you're laying 2 to 3 feet from that person. It's miserable. After a while, it's going to take a toll. I'm not asking for sympathy or pity for me, but, I want people to know that as much as I tease you and as weird as our relationship is to people that, don't work the way we do, I do worry about her and I am concerned about it. But at some point, nobody else seems to be. So we're like, okay, it's another day. I'm going to get up tomorrow. Yep. I'm going to shower and shave. And she's going to shower and do all the girly things she does. She's going to get dressed. She's going to go to work. And every time she has to get up and move from her chair at work, she's going to have a hard time breathing. And
just looking at the phone, waiting for a message.
We may look at the kitchen tomorrow and go, what do you want for dinner? Let's order it out. We may eat sandwiches. Who knows? It is what it is. But we're trying to do the best we can with the situation that we've got. And, any thoughts and prayers on Cindy's side of the world would be great. If you want to reach out to us and contact us in any way, shape, or form, you can contact us via email at all one word, apillowaway@gmail.com. apillowaway@gmail.com. And we also have a Facebook fan page. We've been kind of negligent not putting this out.
Oh.
We have a Facebook fan page called A Pillow Away fan page. Catchy name, huh?
Gotcha.
On Facebook. It is a private fan page because we did have an issue there once before, so we had to kind of restrict it. If you want to join the fan page, all you got to do is make a request, and you can join the fan page until you violate the fan page, and then we kick you off. So thanks for listening to us. We hope you all have a great week. We hope none of you have to suffer through some of the things that we've had to deal with recently. And if you do, know that you're not alone. Reach out. Let us know what you need. We'll try to help you.
See you next week.